Hey everybody, welcome to the Hamakua Homestead. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany and today we are dealing with sourdough. The backstory here is that I just got back from 10 days, more like 12 days away from my sourdough. I went to visit my sister on the mainland and now I'm back on Hawaii Island and I need to get my sourdough started again because when I left, I did two things. One, I put a little bit in the refrigerator just to put it to sleep and make sure that it doesn't starve to death and make sure that it doesn't dry out or overheat, anything like that. Also, I dehydrated some. I spread it out onto a piece of parchment paper and just left it there in air temperature and waited for it to completely dry out. So it was like crispy crackers, and then put it into a mason jar. So now today, what we're gonna do is we're going to rehydrate, re-aliven both of them. And I'm gonna bring you along so that you learn the experience firsthand, just like I'm doing. I have heard of these being done many, many times, but I've just never done them myself. So today is the day. We're gonna start with just taking the sourdough from the fridge out of the fridge. So it has been 2 weeks. I put this in the refrigerator on the 2nd and today is the 16th. That is what it looks like. Okay. Yeah, totally kind of benign, a little bit sour. I'm not sure, but there's some liquid at the top and it's just nice thick sourdough, honestly. Looks exactly like I would hope that it would. I don't really know what that means. But anyway, I'm gonna start by just taking this out of the fridge and setting it on the counter to come up to room temperature for a little while. Then we're gonna feed it and see what happens. Now, on to the next. Please excuse the mess in the middle of my kitchen. This is actually our new stove, our new oven. It's waiting to be installed. So we're just moving around it for now. But anyway, this is what it looks like. Actually, it wasn't fully dry by the time I left, so my sweetheart kept an eye on it. Oh, it smells good. And he put it away in the jar for me while I was gone. So, it's kind of a lot. I don't think I needed a whole quart jar of it, but that's okay. I didn't know what I was doing. Next time I know, I don't need all this. Or I could powder it and sell it or give it away for Christmas, whatever. I don't know of anybody else that's into sourdough like I am. So we're gonna start off by just adding water. Let's get started. All right, so we're gonna do this according to weight. So go ahead and grab your scale. Let's see. I'm gonna start with 25 grams. Okay, now I'm gonna add 50 grams of water. So this might be a little easier if you powder up the flakes. Maybe I'll do that next time. But we're gonna set this for an hour or two and let it rehydrate and, you know, just kind of absorb, do its thing. And I am gonna cover it up so that I don't get any bugs inside. But it doesn't need to be airtight and it probably shouldn't be airtight. It's like a ghost. Ooh. Okay, well, I got distracted. It's been 2.5 hours, but that's okay. So it has rehydrated. There's still some clumpies at the bottom. I don't know how well you can see it. Probably not, but it's okay. We're gonna add flour now. So we added 50 grams of water. We're gonna add 50 grams of flour. Now we're just gonna mix it up the same as we did before we dehydrated it. Basically, that's too thick. That's way too thick. We're gonna have to add more water. It's okay, I'm not worried about it. But what we're looking for is not this. We're looking for more of like a pancake batter. So, more water. Pancake batter is one way to do it. Sometimes I do find myself going a little thicker than pancake batter, and it works out really well for me. So that is a lot better. It's nice and moist. You could totally make a pancake out of it, for sure. The next thing is we want to make sure that we don't leave all this junk all over the sides. We kind of want to get it all down in there together as much as possible. And by doing that, we are avoiding potential for mold. So like up on the sides, if it's just creeping up all the time and it's exposed to the air and everything and contaminants that are in the air, you're gonna have more of a potential for mold. So just kind of wipe it down as much as you can. So now we are going to cover it up once again. I'm gonna leave this out at room temperature, and roughly 24 hours from now, we're gonna come back and we're gonna check and see what it's doing. So that's the end of day one. But now we can also check on our other one because it's been out of the fridge for several hours. It's kind of liquidy. It's kind of solidified itself. It's not separated anymore. Kind of strong. Anyways, I'm gonna weigh this as well, but what I plan to do is just treat it like I normally do. So we are going to, we're gonna start with this much. I don't remember 2 weeks ago how much weight I put in here, but I definitely weighed it out. It was probably 200 grams, I'm not sure. So with the residue in there, we are at 200, which is what I've been doing normally, like on a regular basis. I'm doing a 1-1-1 ratio on this because that is what I usually do. Perfect. So, a clean utensil, and we're gonna mix it just the same as we did before. It might be a little on the thin side. I'm not worried about that. Again, we're gonna try to keep it off the sides as much as we can. There's always gonna be some. Don't stress about it. We're gonna cover it up once again. It doesn't have to be airtight. In fact, it shouldn't be airtight, but we want to keep the bugs and everything else out of there. And that's it. We're gonna leave both of these out to coast. Ooh. I'm gonna leave them out at room temperature, and we will come back and check them tomorrow afternoon and see what has happened. Hopefully, maybe there's gonna be some bubbles. Maybe not. Maybe it'll take several days of regularly feeding it to make that happen. We'll find out tomorrow. Alright. It is roughly 24 hours later. we're gonna check on our sourdoughs, both of them. All right, so this guy, ooh, look at that. It's huge, huge. This is about 24 hours, like real close. So this, if you remember, was like down here. It is more than doubled in size. This is from the dehydrated one, the flaky stuff. Wow, that's really cool. This guy, it grew and it's fluffy and there's lots of bubbles, but it's not as impressive as the other, which is fine. You can see that it did grow. I don't know how well you can see that actually. It grew up to here and it came down a little bit. Anywho, but there are, I don't know. There you go. There's lots and lots of bubbles in there. It's definitely active. So we're gonna feed both of these right quick and then move on. So with this first one that I'm feeding, this is the 1:1:1 ratio from the refrigerated one. I'm going to feed this the same as I always do and just kind of see what happens. It's definitely bubbly and active, for sure. The way I usually do this is I pour 200 grams into a separate container. I discard this one. Don't need that anymore. I'm not usually too picky about washing it off completely because I'm just putting the same thing back in there, you know, whatever. It gets messy sometimes. Now, on a regular feeding, if you're planning on making like several loaves of bread, or you know, you're going to sell them or something like that, you could keep that discard and feed it a larger amount. Instead of just doing 200, 200, 200, you could turn it into 400, 400, 400, and that would work just fine too. If you need to increase the volume, the amount of starter you want to keep, you can absolutely do that. But ours isn't mature enough for that right now, and that's not the intention of this video. And 200, which is about a cup. Mix it up. I fear that this whole time I was not having my close-up video of this, so hopefully I'm able to pull this together in the end with the editing, the video. Ooh. It's okay if there's still some chunks in there. You don't have to be perfect about this. Rarely do we need to be perfect about anything, really. Life in general. That's it. We're gonna cover it back up and check on it again tomorrow. With this one, how nice that is already. Wow. I bet I could have baked bread with this today if I wanted to. That looks great. And so, since this is already at the halfway mark, I think I'm gonna have to increase my container because I don't want it to overflow. Upgrade. Let's see how much we have here. Oh, it's so fluffy. That was beautiful. That's an active, beautiful starter. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the dehydrated one, for sure. Looks like we're at 100 grams. So I'm gonna go and do what I am accustomed to, which is 1:1:1. So I've got 100 grams here. I'm gonna add 100 grams of flour and 100 grams of flour and water. Bingo. Now we just mix it all together, same as before. Like I was saying yesterday, the consistency you're looking for is pancake batter, but that's a very broad term. Some people have fluffier pancake batter, you know, especially like if you're making it out of sourdough. it's a lot different than other recipes. So you're gonna have to really kind of, you know, go with your gut, go with your environment, your humidity. You're gonna have to figure out what works for you in your kitchen, because every single one could be completely different. Even different loaves of bread that I make on different days come out differently than the previous day. Okay. Now we're gonna do the same thing. Cover it up. Come back and check on it again tomorrow. And we're gonna do the same exact thing tomorrow. Right, day 3. Not too much different than day 1. Okay, so you can see a little more clearly now that this had risen and now it's fallen because of the smear marks all over the container. So this is the one that was from the refrigerator. It is actually quite a bit more active today than it was yesterday. And same here. This got very active overnight. Yep. Is doing very, very well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and feed them both one more time. I'm gonna do equal parts flour, water, and starter for both. Anyway, we'll just catch up with it again tomorrow. Maybe we'll wait until the day after before we decide to use this to bake any bread or do anything like that. So far, so good. It seems to be working very well in both situations. Okay, so on day 4, I had some issues with my microphone. I apologize. But I do want to just let you know that on day 4 in the morning, I switched over from afternoon feedings to morning feedings, and I fed them both a 1-1-1 ratio. Then, when it came around to it in the afternoon, I was ready to see how the sourdough actually performed. So I decided on a spur of the moment to go ahead and bake some bread. I used my standard go-to recipe that I get from Farmhouse on Boone, the sourdough for beginners loaf. It is by far my favorite recipe that I have found so far. And I will let you know that I found both of the loaves to be absolutely beautiful. I did not notice a difference in the loaves themselves based on if it was in the refrigerator or if it was dehydrated while I was away. And so, all in all, I would say that my preferred method is the dehydrated version, simply because it became more active sooner. But both methods work very well. Don't be afraid to have your sourdough when you are on vacation, or if you just have a really busy work schedule. You can use both of these methods and then come back to it whenever you feel like it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Hamakua Homestead. I'll see you again soon.